Hello everyone, and welcome to another session of The Brown Couch with Vanita. We are actually not at the Brown Couch today. We are on location. The gentleman I'm sitting down with is so busy that we had to come to him today. We are actually here at 1111 East Broad Street, the Workforce Development Building at the Jerry Hammond, and we're doing a pop-up today. And the gentleman, Mr. Dana Brock, we're sitting down with is actually here today as well. So sit back and enjoy a session with Mr. Brock. Good morning, Dana.
Good morning.
You are so busy. You are just so busy. We had to go on location. You didn't get to sit at the Brown Couch, but we're welcoming you here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I always start the show off with where did we meet and how do we meet? And I don't remember. I know we've known each other for several years, but I really don't remember exactly where we met. Do you?
I do. So we actually met on location, ironically, at one of the first steps. I was very fresh into my role at Impact as an intake specialist at the time. I believe it was 2019, right before the pandemic. And I came over here to Ohio Means Jobs to participate in the first steps. That's where I met you, Maria, and Zach all at the same time.
Oh, okay, okay. So it was at this location.
Yes.
Wonderful. We had a conversation about a month ago, and I sat at your table at First Step, and we actually, first time we ever really sat down and talked.
Right.
And in the conversation, you mentioned to me that you had three numbers, and I was like, what?
Yes.
What? You need to be on the Brown Couch. I need to talk to you. I need to find out more about you.
Right.
And you agreed to be here. You want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, I am a restored citizen. I have 3 prison numbers for various crimes, all felony crimes. So, for me, I grew up in a domestic violence household. So there was a lot of verbal, physical, and emotional abuse, as well as drug use. So growing up as a young boy, seeing that, unfortunately, a lot of that behavior and the things that I grew up around in that unhealthy household carried on into my adult years, which led to me being addicted to drugs and acting out in those same type of behaviors that I grew up in. Which led to incarceration after incarceration and over a 23-year drug addiction career, so to speak. I'm grateful today that I have 5 years, 9 months, and 8 days clean and sober. Yes, and it's only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God.
Won't he do it?
Yes, he will.
Won't he do it? Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So let's talk about that last number, you're getting out, 23 years, your mindset.
Right. So I didn't actually do 23 years in prison. I was 23 years an addict.
Okay.
And in that 23 years of addiction, there were 3 different numbers. The first number was a domestic violence charge.
Okay.
I was sentenced to 13 months in prison. The second number was an assault charge. It was an actual fight, and that was in a drunken, cocaine, and rage stupor, right? Yeah. And then my last number was a felonious assault. Again, another fight. So you can kind of see the pattern there. Yeah. And, it cost me 3 years. And so when I was released in 2018, prior to the release, I had made a decision while I was incarcerated that this just wasn't going to be my legacy.
How old were you at that time?
I was just, 2018, so about 4 years ago. So I was 43.
Okay.
43 years old before I decided to grow up, unfortunately. Yes, so 43 years old before I decided to grow up. And I realized at that time, because my behavior, my actions, my decisions had cost me my wife, time with my children, time away from my family, time that I could have been using wisely and productively to make something of my life. And I had made nothing but a mess of my life. And I come to the realization on that last prison number that I really had nobody else to blame but me. It could no longer be my abusive stepfather's fault. It can no longer be the gangbangers' fault that taught me how to gangbang, the drug dealers that taught me how to sell drugs. I was now in my 40s and ultimately when I was 18, I was responsible for my own life and decisions. But I mean, 40-something years old, it's just time to grow up. And so I made a decision that this wasn't going to be my legacy. But at that time, I still didn't know exactly how and what I was going to do to change the trajectory of my life. So the first thing I had to do was surrender to God.
Amen.
Because I had been trying to do things Dana's way for so long. And looking back, I realized, well, that's not working. So God, I'm going to try it your way. So I picked up that book and I read and I cried and I prayed and I asked for deliverance for a lot of things. And I tell you, in that prayer, the most sincerest prayer I ever prayed in my life was for him to take anything away from me that wasn't of him. And that next morning when I woke up, I felt the shift. Yeah. Something in me had changed. Something was different. I began going to the NA and AA meetings that were available while I was incarcerated. I formed a support system that included a sponsor and working some steps so that when I came home in 2018, I also went to what was then called the Bell Center, which was a cognitive behavioral therapy program. It was based on it was based on an Afrocentric modality. So it was very in your face, very hold you accountable, very confrontational in a way that kept me owning up to my behaviors and correcting them. Because in addiction, you know, they teach you that drugs is only 10% of the problem, right? And so once you take away the drugs, you still have you to deal with. And so I had to get with that hurt little boy and get him to a safe place that would allow me to be the purposed man that I am today. So that was a challenge in itself, but I'm happy to say that it's working. It's a daily process, but I'm happy to say that it's working.
So how long were you in the Bell Center?
So I was in the Bell Center for 6 months. I was there from October of 2018 to March of 2019.
Okay. So while you were at the Bell Center, what were some of the things that you were trying? Were you trying for employment, housing? What was your goals at that point?
So my main focus while I was at the Bell Center was continuing to work on me. There were certain phases at the Bell Center that you had to kind of graduate and matriculate through in order to be able to have certain freedoms outside of the programming, and ability to do things. And even when I got to the job phase, I was still so focused on making sure that I was ready because I wanted to be my best me when I got back into any profession or any career. So it's a 6-month program. So when I got to about the 5th month at the Bell Center, I had decided, I heard about Impact's Reentry program. So I went to Impact and I participated in their Reentry program. There, Dr. Lewis Dodley was very instrumental in helping me to relearn what it meant to be a man. Because what I was taught was so much misinformation. It was wrong, and the examples that I had in my life were just messed up. And so he helped me tremendously and still does to this day. He's like one of my mentors, like a grandfather to me. And very instrumental in me becoming a dependable, reliable, responsible man who does the right thing even when nobody is looking. So that reentry program was instrumental in my growth on a personal level. And then on a professional level, I participated in Impact's what was called Employment Plus program at the time. That was centered around professional development, resume writing, interviewing, business etiquette, professional etiquette, things like that. Some of these things I knew because I had worked in some professional fields throughout my life, but my drug addiction took me out of those positions and cost me several good jobs and positions and things like that. And so once I graduated, my experience at Impact and the demographic that Impact works with, people who are from impoverished neighborhoods, people who are looking for a second chance at life, things like that, really pulled on my soul, really pulled on my spirit. And for the first time, I felt like I was somewhere where I was supposed to be. And I had told Bo Chilton, who was the CEO of Impact at that time, I'm going to be working here one day. And I was dead set on that. And after I completed the Employment Plus program, I volunteered at Impact. My time at the Bell Center, you know, I had done tremendously well. I was the senior coordinator at the Bell Center, which means I was like the head of the house and in charge of all the fellas coming in and out, getting them situated and things like that. So they were very pleased with my progress and allowed me some room to grow and do what I needed to do through Impact. So I was given some extra privileges to be able to volunteer and continue the good works. Right. And so once I graduated the Bell Center, immediately the week after I was hired at Impact.
Wow, and you've been there ever since?
And I've been there ever since. It will be 4 years this March.
Wow. So take us through your progression at Impact. You started out as?
An intake specialist.
Okay.
So an intake specialist's primary job is to just set the appointments for people who are interested in participating in the many programs that Impact has to help an individual get some workforce development training, both on a professional and personal level. And so I did that for all but a year. And then from the intake specialist, a position came open. And first, about the intake specialist, I got to tell this story because as I was there volunteering for Impact, I remember I completed their Employment Plus program, and I was in the computer lab, which they allow participants to use to apply for jobs. So while I was in there applying for jobs, I just had on t-shirt, so a hat to the back and some jeans, and the director at that time of the program, Dr. Yvonne Watson, came in, saw me, and she said, "You know what, Dana?" She said, "I've been interviewing all day for this position, and I just have not found the right person. But for some reason, I feel like you would be a good fit," because she remembered me in the classroom. So she said, "Do you mind interviewing?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I look a hot mess." But so I went in anyway because, you know, I'm a firm believer in that there's no such thing as coincidences or good luck. There's only a good God. And so I went into the interview, and there were 5 people sitting across from me. And I was in this 5-person panel, and they were firing off these questions. And I was just remembering what I had learned, remembering the things that I learned throughout my experience in life and what I learned through the program to answer the questions the best way I knew how, which was mostly honestly. And then, you know, after that interview, the next day, they offered me the position. Now, this position was not a position that was already there at Impact. This was a created position. And I always like to say that he created it, especially for me. So that was awesome. So I spent a year in that role, and then a position came up as a Self-Sufficiency Coordinator. Now, Self-Sufficiency Coordinator works with the individuals once they finish or graduate from one of our programs to help them continue to navigate what their career path looks like, whether they're going to go into a different program in our vocational trades training program or any of the many other programs we have, or if it's going to be straight into employment and what that looks like and how we can continue to support them and help them overcome any barriers that they may have to their success in that career or that job. And I worked as a self-sufficiency coordinator for about a year. And then after that, I was promoted to a program coordinator. From the program coordinator position, I was able to just help to implement, restructure our programs and continue to make sure that the quality of those programs is intact, and any type of curriculums that need to be maybe revisited or redesigned, I play a role in that as a program coordinator. Just recently, just about, I want to say 3 to 4 weeks ago, God had blessed me with another promotion.
Congratulations.
And I am now the Master Facilitation and Quality Assurance Manager.
Say that again. What?
Master Facilitation.
Master. You were a master. God didn't made you a master.
Yes. Me. This 3-time felon.
Wow.
Crack addict. Just, you know.
Is a master.
Is a master.
So Dana, I heard you mention that during your trials and tribulations that God brought you through.
That's right.
You mentioned children.
Yes.
Take us through a little bit about what your children went through when you were going through what you were going through, and then take us through how your relationship is with them now. Right.
So, throughout my life and being an addict, I not only made a mess of my life, but also made a mess of my children's lives and hurt my children. So my eldest 2 children are still very much in my life, but my 2 youngest girls, They were taken away from me and their mother because of the addiction and being unfit parents at the time. Let's just call it what it is. I was a very unfit father. She was an unfit mother. We both were in active drug addiction. And our children were taken away from us. They now live in North Carolina. At the time they were removed from the home, they were 2 and 3. And I think prior to one of my prison numbers, once I got out, I had contact with them. They were 8 and 9. So I hadn't seen or talked to them for 5 years then. And then I got incarcerated again. So it was about 3 years gone then. And so I am still in contact with them, but of course they live across a couple states. And the relationship with them is very distant. They don't really know their father. And all they've heard is some of the bad things. And, you know, there were some promises that I made to them in between those numbers that I did not keep. And so I understand them keeping their distance away from me at this time. They're 17 and 18 now.
And your oldest are how old?
And my oldest are 29 and 28, and I'm gonna get to them. But my 2 youngest, my 18-year-old daughter had a daughter, so I'm a grandfather there with her, but I have not yet seen the baby. I have pictures, but I have not yet seen the baby. And I'm just praying to God that one day we will be able to get a chance to revisit that relationship and make the best out of it. I don't want to come at them with any excuses or any empty promises or anything like that. So I continue to just try to live my life in a way that shows them that I've changed and that they don't have to wait for the next time that their dad is going to get locked up, right? And so, you know, I realize that my life now has to be lived in such a way that regains the trust of those I've hurt. Now with my oldest children, my 29-year-old daughter, my 28-year-old son, me and my 29-year-old daughter, we have a great relationship. She was my firstborn, daddy's girl, has been there thick and thin. No matter what I've done, she's just always clung to me. And we have a great relationship with her. I have a 4-year-old grandson, Amir, who I'm absolutely love to death. And he is the apple of my eye. He loves his pawpaw. And our relationship is amazing. And I made the promise to my daughter that I would be a better grandfather than I was a father. And I intend to keep that promise.
Well, God will give us those chances.
For sure.
You know, if you weren't there for the children, now you have grandchild.
Right.
You can make up for what, and your children will see.
Right.
You know, how you are. So that's a blessing that he's given you the opportunity to be a pawpaw.
Absolutely. And then my 28-year-old son. Now, my 28-year-old son is so much like me at that age that we are like 2 rams bumping heads. His hurt little boy from his father being in and out of his life continues to be a barrier that has made our communication difficult, has made our bonding difficult. He has expressed that he is very proud of the change that I've made in my life and the things that I'm doing positive, but he is still hurt from, you know, the things that I didn't do, the things that I said I would do and didn't follow through with. And even now, in all my doing well, he has expressed to me, and I can see how he would feel like this. He still feels forgotten somewhat, because as you alluded to in the beginning of this interview, I am very busy, right? And so with my 28-year-old son, and he's my only boy, the rest are girls, we are working on it. I am wholeheartedly believing in God because we just spoke yesterday and talked about making 2023 a new year for us, where he doesn't remind me of my mistakes. I don't remind him of his mistakes, because he, like me, dibbling dabbling in drugs, and I'm grateful that he's 28 and he only had, you know, 1 day in jail because I bailed him out and wouldn't let him stay in there because I just really didn't want him to experience what I experienced. And I try to tell him, because he still drinks, he smokes weed, and I'm hoping that we've got the pill thing beat because he had some opioid experience that was kind of taking him down the wrong path. And so I've been praying to God, and again, just trying to lead by example, just letting him know, okay, yes, you know what? Back then I made these mistakes and I can never take that back. But I would pray that you would see the mistakes I made and not take that road, and follow me on this path.
Time and patience.
Yeah, follow me on this path. Time and patience. And with him, I have 2 granddaughters. They are 8 and 7.
Well, you really are a pawpaw.
Yeah, I'm a pawpaw.
You really are a pawpaw.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
I think that testimony will help someone out there to show that there can be changes, that there is hope.
Right.
And, with God in place, all things are possible.
Absolutely.
What I would like for that is there anything else you would like to tell us? Because what I would like for you to do right now is, I would like you to talk to our audience and just sum up some things for them. Give them some positive affirmation. Tell them how they can, if they're suffering, how they can change. Just talk to our audience right now. So
Absolutely.
You can look at the camera.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Dana Brock, and as you've heard, 3-time failing recovering drug addict. One thing I want to express to you and tell you is that change is possible.
Yes, it is.
And that if he did it for me, he will do it for you. One of the things that was very key for me into making this change was being able to be honest with myself. I had to be honest with myself, and I had to face the music of the mistakes that I made. And sometimes that guilt and shame is what actually kept me out there in that mess. But when I realized that no matter how hard it got, I was going to go through this, I realized that it wasn't as bad as I had made up in my mind that it was going to be, right? And things now in life are easier. When I have a bad day, I can get through it without a drink or a drug. I can get through it without anger. Communication is key in any relationship, and whether it be professional or personal. And if you're anything like me, if you heard anything in this interview that you say you can relate to, I want you to know that trauma not transformed is transferred. And so we being hurt people. So you don't have to hurt anymore. There are things that you can do. There are people in place to help you get through and deal with the hurt that you have. It's going to be key and instrumental in your change for you to address that hurt, address that trauma, so then that you can start to live and move and breathe in your purpose. I am at Impact Community Action, so if you heard anything about Impact Community Action, please reach out to me. I'm available to the public, and I just wish you all the best. Know that you can do anything that you put your mind to, but put God first, and everything else that you desire, He will add on to you. God bless.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana. If you would like to see Dana on a Friday, the first Friday of every month, Dana, along with some other people I've sat down in sessions with, are here at the Workforce Development Building, Ohio Means Jobs, on the first Friday of every month from 9 to 1 at 1111 East Broad Street, and you're welcome to come out. It is a resource fair for anyone who's coming out of incarceration, who has been incarcerated or been touched by the justice system. We have a slew of resources and organizations out here to help you. We're helping with state IDs, we're helping with birth certificates. As you heard, Dana's here, CEO is here, Alva's House is here, employers are here, TAP's here. I can go on and on and on. Please join us the first Friday of every month from 9 to 1 down here at 1111 East Broad Street. And I'll see you at the next session of The Brown Couch. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.